to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
If at first you don't succeed, skydiving isn't for you.
And Dale Hummel.
Work hard, have fun, make history.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
And Ryan and I have a special guest on for our 2-year plus 1 week anniversary.
Yeah, we missed that.
2-year plus 1
Yeah,
week.
we missed that last week. Sorry about that.
Our special guest required no scheduling, Ryan. 0 effort on our part. Would you agree?
Well, no, it requires scheduling every week, but we pay Klifton to show up. Not enough,
So
but I mean...
He didn't even have... wouldn't have to really ask him. He just had to do it.
Right, basically, yes. I agree with
Yes,
that.
our special guest is our producer, Klifton, and he's going to join us from the very beginning here in our current events. And we usually have a little current event session prior to recording, so I think it'll be a little bit like that.
He does not have as many liberal tendencies as Dale, so it's fine, people. Everybody calm down.
Oh, we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Calm down, it's fine.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out a little more about that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, boy.
I do have, if we could start the current events. Klifton, are you with us?
I am with you.
I'm going to, if you guys don't mind, I have a quick poll I would like to get you two involved in for our lead off into our current events. Is that okay with you guys?
No.
Sure.
It sounds like a trap.
This came to me from our good friend Matt Clays. He sends me all kinds of facts and figures and statistics. But this is Perceptions of the Truth. This was a polling outfit, YouGov. And I actually looked it up, and it looks pretty legit. I actually like some of the content they have on there.
Oh, my
and I think these questions have been asked on some of the news. I know Jesse Waters pulled a couple of them off of there, but it's pretty good. So what they did is they pulled what they call average people on the street. And they did several
I am not
questions.
average, so this does not affect me.
No. So I know you will fit in a different manner. But I think they wanted to get at just what the perception was. The first question, and I would like both of you to answer, please. So we have the answers, what percentage, or the answers from the average person on the street, and then you have the actual answer along with your two. How many families?
I feel like I'm going to fail a test.
I think you may. How many families make over $500,000 a year?
Wait, percentage?
Yes, percentage.
How many?
What percent of the families in the United States make over $500,000 a year?
I would say less than 10%, but
Okay, right?
15.
The average person on the street says 26. The economy would be booming, wouldn't it?
seems high.
That seems high.
That does. The actual figure is 1%.
No way.
It is. I even fact checked.
Are they? But I mean, so how are they counting that? Because if you're a small business owner, a sole proprietor, that revenue is hitting your tax bracket. So I'm not sure how that.
I would assume net earnings, but I don't know for a fact. But I think
we a broke country.
I think the perception is that there are many more wealthy individuals than there actually are. Extremely wealthy, I would say.
Yeah.
What
I mean,
percent?
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, $500,000, I mean, it's a lot for me, but I mean,
That's a lot of money, but still just 1%.
Yeah, I didn't figure the 1% would be $500,000.
This is every year we get this much money.
Right.
I know, but still.
Ryan, that has to be more than your allowance.
Shut up, Dale. I don't like this game anymore.
But how's the average people think that 1 out of 4 makes over $500,000? Because
I don't know. That's the whole purpose of this. It's shocking where they're at.
See, I thought I was really high with 15%, but I was still going there.
What percent of Americans are vegetarians?
0.265. They're too many. That's my answer. Too many.
I'm gonna go with the 25% there.
The average person on the street says 30%. I don't know where I would have came.
What's the actual?
5%.
Wow. Okay, I'm okay with that.
And see that's believable for me. I probably would have guessed higher than that, honestly, just because
I would have thought it was higher than
so
that.
much.
Well, anybody that's vegetarian or vegan has to tell you that they're vegetarian or vegan. So
Exactly.
you hear from the.
And I also think they lie and cheat and when they're alone somewhere. But anyway, next.
Well, I don't know about
They
that, but
grab a
it is
hamburger.
hard. I mean, I grew up vegetarian. I didn't eat meat till I was 16 or 17 years old. And
That is not
How
possible.
did you get to be so tall?
well, see, that's when I finally started eating meat. That's when I grew. So,
What did you eat as a infant? Was it
Baby
milk?
food
Was it-
like the
was
rest
milk-
of us?
I don't know.
No. Does milk count as vegetarian? Like,
Yeah, no, I had milk and cheese and all that. I wasn't
Okay.
vegan,
That's vegan.
but just vegetarian,
meat.
just no meat, right?
so you were forced into this. Let's go with that.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was a religious thing. So yeah, that's
that
Oh.
that
pretty much
makes
how I
me
grew
feel
up.
better.
Religious,
And
but
just
there's
so everybody knows,
wait,
he grew
stop,
up-
hold up. There are religions out there that says you can't eat meat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Clearly, I need to study up on my religious stuff. But
Hey, I know on the Catholic side, no Friday meat.
that's just
No.
during
Yeah,
Lent.
they still have fish,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Well, it used
That's
to be all the
just
time.
during
Now it's during Lent. But anyway,
It used
But
to be
I
all
think-
the
I think-
time.
I think fish is okay though.
fish is okay.
I-
But yeah, it used to be all
The
every
only
Friday.
okay, so this is funny. The only reason I know about Lent and you can eat fish on Friday, but you can't eat meat, is because a bunch of my families that show were Catholic, and that was always during the Houston Stock Show. So when we would have to go to lunch on Fridays, they'd be like, "We
Everybody
can't
have to
eat
find fish."
there." Yes, it's not that I know much about the Catholic religion, but I do know that much. So
There you go.
In Clifton, what part of the country did you grow up in?
I grew up in northwest Washington State, so I was about 20 minutes from the ocean and about 45 minutes south of Canada.
Region 1.
So any of
Region
those-
1.
anything that we detect in terms of liberal tendencies, we can blame it on that.
Yes.
I mean, just we can't completely pull away.
But I anyway, yeah,
Speaking of that, I'm going to be in Portland this weekend.
Oh,
Flying
that's
to
a-
Portland.
interesting city.
What was that peace, love, unicorns, butterflies zone called?
I don't remember what that was called, but yeah, go
That was in
visit
Portland,
that.
wasn't it?
Yeah, go visit that.
I'm going to. I'm going to go down and I'm going to check it out.
I'm going to say this for Portland. Now, I don't know about now, but, and I'm going to offend every old person that listens to this. But anyway, the last thing that every old person wants to do before they die is go on a cruise to Alaska. Don't ask me why, but that's what they want to do. And so we took this Alaskan cruise, and it came out of Portland. And I've never seen so many walkers, canes, wheelchairs, whatever. But yeah, we went. Portland was actually a very cool town. It had these huge, flower markets and, produce. It was a very cool town. I loved it. But now I don't know.
I'm out on it right now. I am out.
Isn't that where the first Starbucks was?
That was Seattle.
Oh, that's Seattle. Okay. But anyway, next, are we done with your
Next,
percentages?
no, just got a couple left.
Okay.
Oh no,
We kind of got detoured just a little bit or distracted. What % of Americans live in New York City?
goodness, I have no
I've
idea.
been wrong on everything. So 2.
0.5%. I don't know.
My wife threw in less than 1%.
That's what I say.
Ryan, any guesses?
I said 2.
Oh, that's pretty good. The average person thinks 30% of the people live in New York City.
Who are they asking these questions?
They
of?
just
These people are
their
dumb.
wording. They just kind of like when Jesse Waters walks down the street and just grabs random people. And
Right.
this is the whole point. The perception of the average person out there is just way gone. So the actual is 3%. And that's probably higher
That's
than I
still
would have said.
high. Yeah.
What percentage of Americans are transgender?
Do we know?
Oh,
I mean,
we do.
Do
I
they
it's
know?
in front of me?
right. That's what I'm getting.
Well,
at.
they did their
I
best.
got you, Clifton.
They did their best.
I'm not sure I want to know.
Clifton, give it a try, Clifton.
0.01%. I don't know. It's
If
not
there
very
are
high.
more transgenders than there are people making $500,000 a year, I'm very, 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 very worried for our country.
You know what? Exactly the same, 1%.
Okay.
And again, I'm with you guys. I don't know how you're gonna. That's gonna be a tough poll to get. Now, what does the average person on the street think the percentage is?
50.
That's 22. 22%
22?
are transgender.
I think you got these information off the Onion or something.
No,
because
I-
went to.
I think it's all made up.
Ugh.
No, I
Anyway.
think it's good information. I believe that the average people are that far out. The last question,
Oh God,
Ryan, you this one you just have to get this one. What percentage of your fellow citizens are gay?
out or closeted?
The question
Again,
is,
do they know?
what percent of your fellow citizens are gay? That is the question.
I'm going to go with, I don't know a percentage or what they think, but I am going to say that I believe 1/4 of Americans have had homosexual activity in their life. I don't know what your little poll says, but
I'd say 20%.
Yes, I'm going to call crap on this one. They're calling, and I'm going to say when they ask somebody, they're pretty much asking somebody, "Are you gay?" And I think there's obviously a
they're
lot
saying
of people
no.
Yes,
right.
Correct. So their number is 3%, and that seems very low.
What did the morons
very
that
low.
took the quiz think?
30%.
Oh, okay.
Of
So
course.
I mean, not as bad as some. So I guess the point of this is, so why do people have such inaccurate thoughts on these? And this poll comes out and explains their whole reason for doing the poll is that the media pushes these things. And Clifton, you made a point, like if they're vegetarian, they usually scream that they're vegetarian.
Right.
So sometimes these smaller percentages of people or populace are just speaking up a whole lot louder than not. So it's interesting, just like the Disney thing when they cancel Ladies and Gentlemen and Boys and Girls.
I don't want to talk about Disney anymore.
1% of the population. So it's a sad situation.
I am out on all things Disney. Period.
I'm as far out on Disney as you can get. I was out on it before this. But
I was
this has
too.
pushed
Now
me
just
further.
whatever. I want to talk about Johnny Depp. That's who I want to talk about. So
It's a mess.
I don't know, like, how many drugs this man has done in his life, and I'm assuming a lot. But
He's gone.
so I tan when I'm at home, and I got to tan today. And so when I tan, it's 12 minutes, and I listen to Fox News while I tan. So they are broadcasting this on Fox News. Why, I do not know, because it's the worst thing ever. It took the 12 minutes while I was laying in the tanning bed. He got asked how he got injured in a fight. His finger got injured in a fight with his wife. I never found out because the 12 minutes, he was talking about her throwing vodka bottles and hurling obscenities at him. I mean, this man is the most incoherent person I have ever seen or heard talk at his trial in my life. What was your little gun boy that got off that I thought was just an idiot during the trial? He is Einstein compared to Johnny Depp.
Yes, I would agree. Our Wisconsin, Illinois gun boy.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
In my opinion, and I don't think he's as slow or dumb as he's coming across. I think he's kind of filibustering it himself to where he can work in as much emotional content about her against the jury or judge or whoever's handling this stuff. But
I don't think it's working. It's so painful to listen to him.
I'm not arguing, but I think that's
I
maybe
agree. He cannot made it this far and been. I mean, because like he is a good actor in some things. Like he can't be as just stupid as and slow as he comes across. Like
in almost all his roles, he's kind of a witty, fast-paced person. So I don't know if he's like purposely trying to show people that he's a real person. That's not who he is. You know, if he came out talking like Captain Jack Sparrow, people would be like, you know, they get what they want, I guess, but they wouldn't see him as necessarily a real person then. So I don't know if it's a contrast.
So you think it's intentional?
I do.
Wow.
There's got to be something going on because he just cannot.
Why is Fox News covering it?
That I don't know either.
Understand.
Slow news cycle. I mean, I don't know.
There's a lot going on in the world that we don't need to listen to Johnny Depp.
Well,
and
you know,
I listened to the same segment you did while you're tanning. I don't know what happened to his finger.
I quit. I was like, okay, I can't listen anymore. I'm done. But you know, it is a slow news cycle because the Easter Bunny took Biden away.
Wasn't that the best? That was so good. Clifton, did you see that by any chance?
I did not.
Oh, Ryan.
They're at the Easter egg roll or hunt or whatever, and I guess there was some reporters asking Biden a question. And when a difficult question got up, the Easter Bunny grabs the old man by his arm and just leads him away. I mean, just literally takes the man away, which what I want to know is, of this, we all know that is a high-profile staffer in the Easter Bunny costume now that was put there to make sure if there was a question he didn't need to answer, to drag the old man away. I want to know, did they draw straws? Like, was this a seniority thing? Like, how did we decide which staffer had to play the Easter Bunny? That's what
And
I
Ryan,
want.
I bet our listeners think you're making this up.
No,
This
you
is
can
real.
research it. It's all over Twitter. It's all over Twitter.
It's. I watched it, and I mean, as soon as a question about Afghanistan came up, I mean, that Easter Bunny was on him, and then Joe looked totally lost, puzzled, confused.
No, I'm watching it right now, and the Easter Bunny didn't even follow him. Like Joe just started walking the other direction, like he was like he ran into a wall and bumped off of it.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible that they truly put a staffer in an Easter Bunny outfit for those purposes? That in itself is very telling.
That has to be the first time that's ever happened. I mean, like the Easter Bunny saves the
Secret
day.
Service or something, maybe in the costume or something. Not a staffer.
Oh,
Again, he looks so confused. Like, I don't know.
Okay, now this confused look. What do you? I mean, we've seen it when it wasn't that long. He turned around to shake somebody's hand on stage, and there's nobody there.
there was no one there.
So
that was like last week.
watching him walk across the lawn, all of these things. There's so many facial expressions, just general motor skill difficulty. I'm not going to say he's had a mild stroke, but I'm not ruling that out, and I feel bad if he has. But whatever it is, whether he's just crashing that fast because of old age and it's progressing that rapidly,
I think it's the stress.
that may be something is. It's been bad, but something is making it worse. And whatever it is, he should not be leading our country right now. It just, if you can't see that, you don't have to listen to anything. Just watch his body language.
Oh, I'm
And if you don't see frail, feeble, motor skill issues, cognitive issues, you don't even have to listen to him. And then watch out when he starts talking.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
One other thing, Ryan, you have to share with the public. You've already flown since the mask mandate's been reversed by a federal judge.
Yeah, I did that this morning, and I wanted to punch people in the face. So
That's not very nice.
I'm just telling you, I did. So anyway, I didn't even realize I was judging a show in North Carolina, and I didn't realize the mask mandate got lifted. And then Dale tells me, and so I'm like all excited. I go to the airport, no mask, whatever. I would say half of these people still wore a mask. I was the most annoyed.
It's interesting. And the judge comes out and basically says the CDC and the Biden administration overstepped their authority and failed to follow the rule of law. You're hearing all the pundits come out that this judge shouldn't be making a call on human health or human safety. Well, she isn't doing that. She's trying to follow the rule of law, and they simply don't have the authority, in her opinion, to make that mandate. So it's interesting how that's all going. However, I fly out on this weekend out of O'Hare, Ryan, and I have to wear a mask in the airport because O'Hare's still enforcing that. I assume some type of local mandate.
Yeah, I'm sorry about you for that.
JFK, LaGuardia, I think those three, and O'Hare are the three that are still implementing mask mandates, assumably at the local level. I am going to do my best to not wear one and see how far I get. I can usually get to clear, and then they kind of shut you down. But it'll be interesting. I can't imagine those three airports are enforcing it heavily. I would be surprised.
I guess we shall see.
Philadelphia, your city of brotherly love. Guess what they've done?
I don't know.
They have a full citywide indoor mask mandate came back into effect this week. So as everybody else is saying screw it and no mask, I don't know if they call it locking down, but they have a full mask mandate anywhere indoors. I assume outside of your home. I cannot imagine people are taking that very well. I don't see us going back to that with people abiding by it or putting up with it.
It's not good.
No, not at all.
Hey, the war in Ukraine is
Maybe
still going
yeah.
on, in case anybody won't know. But
It is going on?
Yeah, it's still
Not only
on.
is it going on, does it not look like it's gotten pretty serious in terms of they're concentrating their efforts on the eastern portion?
Is that good for current events?
Before we progress on to the current events or past the current events into the main topic, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to Boxell Manufacturing and Stephen Popejoy with Popejoy Livestock Transportation for sponsoring this episode. It's simple. If you appreciate this podcast, show your support for these fine people. They're the reason we can continue to do this. They're the reason we can pay Klifton Clifton, you appreciate them, don't you?
I appreciate them.
Ryan, do you have any top 10 for BTR JLA?
I do, but first I want to. The dog is back, by the way, in case y'all were wondering.
The dog is back.
The dog
you
is
have
back.
A dog?
No, I don't. This week we're going to highlight the top 10 junior cattle exhibitors. First place is Faith Campa from Arizona. Second place is Caitlin Hockmeyer from Indiana. Third place is Hudson Van Meter from Indiana. Fourth place is Dallas Ritchie from Indiana. Indiana's like royally up there.
Woo.
Then we have Boanne Graves from Missouri, Vivian Lou Thompson from Alabama, Tucker Wells from Texas, El Totsky, I think I probably mispronounced that, sorry, from Michigan, Lane Hagan from Yoakum, and Texas, and Carson Robb from Weatherford, Texas.
That was Indiana and Texas. You scattered in. Not bad.
And finally, want to thank Brent Graves from Stock Show Auctions and Stock Show Pro for being a national award sponsor for this year. We've been in communication. He donated several months ago, but Texas Majors got around, and we just didn't get the information here. But he finally got it to me. We'll be making a social media announcement soon. But I do appreciate Brent for his support of the BTR JLA. StockShowAuctions.com has proven to be the go-to platform for junior exhibitor auctions, hosting online and simulcast auctions from county shows to large fairs from Maryland to California. StockShowAuctions.com is the first competitive livestock platform to offer full multi-camera production, sale management, and marketing services for junior exhibitor auctions. And the Stock Show Pro app allows exhibitors of all ages and their ag teachers, extension agents, parents, and breeders to compile and share daily information about an animal's feeding program, supplements, medications, weight gain. The information can be tracked, shared, tweaked throughout the show season, giving the exhibitor a real-life daily management experience and data tracking, as well as forecasting ability. So really cool app, and Stock Show Auctions has done really great things, and we appreciate Brent and both those companies for their support of the BTR JLA.
I like this concept. What's the name of the app?
Stock Show Pro.
Stock Show Pro. I think there's some use there. I need to get on that. Thank you for the sponsorship. Greatly appreciated. Today's title for our main topic, 2 years and a week late. Basically getting around to introducing our producer, Klifton. And we did make a brief introduction there at the beginning, but I can assure you that if we reel back 2 years and a week plus a month or so, when Ryan and I came to the agreement that we were going to do this podcast, or made the decision to go ahead and move forward with this, the next thing was he nor I had any idea. I mean, I don't know.
I still don't.
More than and I have to probably say I don't, other than being on another podcast and listening to one or two, maybe. Not very many. I didn't know much about it. I had no idea what the platforms were. I knew Spotify exists, and I've heard of some of these things, but I really knew nothing about the equipment or what was involved. So I started doing research, and I got online, and I talked to several people that basically it is their job to set you up and to do your own podcast or do it for you. And I talked to several of them, and I was not connecting very well with them. And for some reason, I had one of my good friends up here that works in the mobile audio business in Bloomington, Illinois. And I just asked him that, hey, do you have any connections in the podcast world? And he had referred me to Klifton, that Klifton had been in the shop and I think done some live broadcasting from there. And Klifton, you have to help me. My memory's not very good, but I believe you were pretty receptive from the beginning.
Yeah, it was something that I've had my own podcasts. I've helped produce other people's podcasts as well. Maybe not quite as intense as Beyond the Ring is, but
now you're saying we're intense.
More on a casual basis. Well,
I don't know how to take that, but I'm feeling attacked. I'm just going to say.
Yeah, don't feel attacked. Most of the stuff that we did, it goes out, and a few thousand people will eventually, connect with it or whatever. And it was mostly people that I knew in industries that I was very involved in, understood. And so this was doing the same thing, but for an audience, for an industry that I knew nothing about going in. at all.
Dale still doesn't know anything about it. It's fine.
So Clifton, why did you not think that when I approached you, knowing as little as I did and tried to explain this to you, that didn't you assume your job was going to be very short-lived?
I would say so. I mean, I think initially I just figured it was going to be, hey, here's kind of a list of things to get started that I would suggest using, and here's kind of the platforms. But then I think as we got talking further, I kind of got the feeling that maybe for the flow of the show where you're not focusing on the technical side so much, that maybe I walk through that with you, at least for the first couple episodes, to just make sure everything goes smooth and if any questions come up or whatever else. And here we are 2 years later, still kind of doing that same thing. But I think it's been good for the show. I think it's been good for everybody involved to have that walkthrough and have a third party involved, regardless of who it is. But it helps when it's also the person who's, editing and putting out the show at the end of the day. So I think it makes a difference.
I think it's huge, Clifton, and we definitely appreciate it. And are you not convinced that Ryan and I, no matter how simple people may say it is, we're not capable?
Would that
be accurate?
I have no problem saying I am not capable. Okay, no, zero.
I think I think there was a lot of different dynamics coming into play, especially in the beginning, that have somewhat worked out, but there was definitely a need for a referee in the beginning because there was a lot of oil and water at the there was Dale who wanted to have something smooth and professional and clean and
I'm the opposite.
Right. So damping both sides a little bit to where Ryan's personality could come through, because I felt that if we changed what Ryan was trying to say or come out with it, that it would make the podcast less effective. At the same time,
not letting Dale have a heart attack. We get it. We understand.
Right. Exactly. So
it was stressful in those first few.
Oh, and Dale would call me several times a day. I think both of yours comfort level has come a long way from then. I think, Dale, you're much more likely to be okay with saying what needs to be said and deal with the repercussions of that, if there are any. I think the repercussions have usually been less than what you thought up front. Pretty
much just some hate mail, and that's okay. Yeah. And I think I misjudged maybe where the listeners were on that, and there's no question they're perfectly fine with 99% of it.
I'm actually to the point I like the hate mail.
You're enjoying it now.
I do like the hate mail.
But I don't remember. I haven't had maybe that massage issue is the only thing I've had, and that wasn't bad.
Oh, there you go.
On the hate mail side.
On the same token, I think Ryan has progressed from his professional side as far as judging in that. And the reason I say that is because coming into this, obviously I knew nothing about it, but I'm very involved in another industry that does similar things and on a different scale. But I saw a lot of familiarity between what Ryan was going through, what I'd gone through, what I did to get out of that, and what Ryan did to kind of move beyond that with the BTR JLA, which has been, I think, the perfect move that needed to happen. But I think Ryan, even though he's always comfortable in his skin, obviously, I think
it takes a lot of time to make my skin look like this. That's why.
But I also think you've solidified your comfort level more in where you are in the industry, and I think that's made a difference over the last 2 years as well, that I've seen from an outside perspective, where I think both of you, have kind of come to the middle a little bit, where you're more comfortable being who you are and doing what you feel is best for the industry as a whole. And I think seeing what I've seen and people's talking about it and being at OYE and everything else, you can see how much this podcast has influenced a lot of people.
I'm just going to be honest. I cannot believe that. I know that we a week late from the 2 years, but anyway, when I figured out last week that we missed that, I was like, hey, yo, happy anniversary, guys. We missed that. But anyway, I can't, I am just stunned that we've had 1.5 million downloads. And I know that that's not Joe Rogan territory, but I thought originally, yo, if a couple thousand people listen to us every couple of weeks, it'll be all right. We're doing something. Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
No, and I credit that. And Clifton, we obviously brought you on here for a reason, but your guidance in this, and not only technical guidance, but we'll get on here and it may be 5 minutes before we record. And in Clifton, you're sometimes giving us some direction, or at least putting some mental images that hey, you might want to move a little this way, and vice versa. And Clifton talked about it. I can come out and be very honest about the issues that I have doing this, or in the beginning more so than now. And Ryan kept pushing. He can get down there and disclose everything in his personal life. And I was very guarded, and I'm still uncomfortable, relatively speaking, talking about my personal life and things like that. But I would say that I've progressed dramatically, and it's not as big of an issue for me now. But it's interesting how this continues and how it grows. And you think we're only getting on for an hour a week, but really we're on episode, I believe, 105. That's a lot of this chemistry working itself out.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting, especially how much similarity there is between different industries. When you get so caught up in what you're doing in front of you in your life, you see, the problems as unique to this thing. And well, if we could just change all this somehow, it would all be better. And I've noticed after traveling, in different countries, plus, especially this has been enlightening for me, because it would be something that I would not involve myself in without a reason. and I was very unfamiliar with most of what y'all do and what you talk about. But the similarities are endless. It's nearly identical in many different ways when it comes to, competition and doing your best and going out there, and what happens when you win and what happens when you lose, and the repercussions of both sides, and what people think of you if you say too much or if you say too little, and all these things. And I think we see it as our world perspective, as our little circle that is weird or damaged or needs to be changed or needs to get better or whatever. And yet it's just people interacting. And regardless of kind of what is at the center of that, of this hobby or sport or industry or whatever you call it, but all those things, there's so many similarities just because people react to those situations in a very predictable way. And so I think the bigger thing is that I think you guys have done is, instead of trying to come out and change the industry or the show ring or anything else into something that it isn't for people who aren't there, rather you're pushing everybody to do a better job at what they're doing for the people who are there, so they can benefit more from it. And I think that will be seen for years to come, just that push and kind of uniting people on that front.
I think that's a real good point, because and we've said this before on here, but like when I was judging the Stair Show at the Arizona National in 2019, Dell and I and his wife and my mother and Kelly all went to dinner, and we had both been on a podcast like months before, and he had this whole idea. He's like, "We're going to do a podcast." I was like, "Why?" And he's like telling me the things that he thought we could accomplish and all this. And at first I was like, yeah, well, if we could get a fourth of that done, that would be great. But anyhow, I am genuinely surprised and very happy that I know every time I go to a show, or at least every other day or something, I'll run into somebody, I'll talk to somebody, they'll message me, whatever, and they'll be like, "So this happened because we listened to your podcast, we went to our county fair," or whatever. Like, the things that we say do matter, because they do take them up in other places, or they change what they're doing in their personal barns and livestock programs and all this stuff. And so that is really cool. And that is something that at first, I know Dale thought that, and I was like, I don't know, but it's happened. And, I say all the time too, that us talking about it on here can't fix everything. But the fact that we're opening the dialogue and talking about stuff that a lot of people won't talk about, I think that gets other people talking, and that is the catalyst that actually causes change. And so I think that is the biggest function that we're performing, is we are putting things out there that a lot of people are either afraid to talk about or don't want to talk about for whatever reason. And it's getting people started up and talking about the problems, because this industry is amazing, but no industry is perfect, and ours isn't either. But the other funny thing that I want to say about that, and again, I knew Dale before, and I guess we'll get into that because that was a question, but at that dinner he said, I have opinions that need to be heard, but I need you on there so they will listen to my opinions. I was like, okay. So I'm the wind-up circus monkey. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think that was the definition in the beginning, wasn't it?
Yes. I'm the wind-up circus monkey. Okay.
And you were very, very good at it.
I am
the
good
best
at
one
it.
there is.
I mean,
there is no better.
No, I know what my strengths and my weaknesses. Okay, I'm just saying.
Well, back to what Ryan had mentioned there, and that was the vision, is to try to make change in the industry or allow it to be talked about, and hopefully that there's that catalyst that Ryan's saying when others start talking about that. I am beyond pleased, and I appreciate the messages, and just like Ryan's talking about, every other day or so we'll either talk to somebody or get a message that we did this differently because of what we heard, whether it's something in that family's barn or it's something at the county fair level in terms of rules or whatever it may be. And I, like you, Ryan, I had hoped that those things could happen, but it's gone far beyond what I ever imagined it could. And I think that indicates that there's people that live in different parts of the country and they've always done it a certain way. And you and I have been showing around the country and been exposed to shows all over and see the differences, but bringing some of those ideas out and allowing them to think about it and that there is a different way to do it. Luckily, some of those people have embraced it if they think it's a better way. And making things better and finding a better way is great.
Right. I mean, I do think that showing is different in different parts of the country and different regions and all that, in certain areas and certain things. But I think the biggest, the overall issue that this industry has is this is what's worked for however many years. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, I also think that when you stop learning and you stop growing and you stop evolving, then you stop living and things break down and, they don't continue. And, I have a mother who has the oldest junior livestock association in the world. And she is the most resistant person to change I've ever met. She thinks that she's, some worldly person that just loves change. I'm like, you will not let anybody do anything other than the way you want to do it ever. And I think that overall, and I'm not picking on my mother, I'm just saying, I think that is a mindset. This has worked at this county, or this has worked at this major, this has worked at this state fair, or this jackpot show for 40 years, so why would we change anything now? That's not going to cut it. The show will still go on. It will still be fine, but it will never improve if you continue on that path.
Agreed.
And I think the danger on the flip side of that is when somebody tries to interject so much proposed change, or we need to go from A to Y, from here to there. Both sides can be dangerous because, we took this huge leap and now it didn't achieve anything, so we're going back to how it was. You get a lot more change by having iterations, and a lot of that is just communicating. And I think, back to what you guys were talking about from the beginning is with that poll, Dale, that you brought up, and the discrepancies between what people think these percentages are and what they actually are. I think the same thing happens with events and the participants of those and everybody in between, where the people in charge aren't hearing from the majority of what people are thinking, the participants, because they're either too shy or too scared or don't want to or whatever. They don't voice it. So they might hear one or two, but it takes someone like Ryan in that position to put it out there where people have to hear it and actually affect that change and say, hey, no, you may think you're doing the best thing possible here, but this is how the people, your customers, are reacting to it. And this is what we can do different to move around that. And usually it's smaller change. It's not big big sweeps.
No, yeah, and I don't. I mean, again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but there are things that can be done differently and whatever. And then the other thing, and I'm glad you brought up customers. Like this is and I have said this before on here. This is pretty much the only industry that I know that of this size and has this much money involved in and all this other stuff. That kind of that theory that the customer is always right is null and void. I mean, like. The customer are the exhibitors and their families, and they get very little input into what. And I that has puzzled me since I was a small child. I'm just gonna be. I'm like, but I would go to shows and be like, well, why are they doing this way? Because and whatever. And they're like, Ryan, it doesn't matter what you think. It's like I gave them $500 in entry fees. It should matter,
right.
And my mother would be like, shut up. And I'm like, but, my mom would always do a survey at the TJLA camp show, and you would get 20 points for filling out the survey. So you would have to put your name on it. Well, no one, because your kid's name was on there, no one is going to answer the questions in a negative way because they don't want Susie Q to be going, oh my God, I cannot believe she does not like the way we do things. And so I think you make a very valid point on that, Klifton. That there are a lot of people that are still scared that there will be backlash or retribution if they speak out or stuff like that. And so I guess that's why I'm here.
And it does happen, right? Because, I mean, I can't say it doesn't, because I think even though I would say myself from an event promoter standpoint, even though I want the feedback and I want to do a better show, anytime somebody speaks out on a Facebook group or whatever else and says, what can we do things to make things better? Or this could be done better this way, or this needs to change or whatever. I mean, you kind of get that resistance, that feeling of resistance no matter what, because it's kind of like saying, hey, you're not doing things right. And you, of course, want to immediately defend yourself that, yes, I am. I know better than you because I do this and you don't.
Right.
But again, they're the participants. So, and sometimes that is true. Sometimes you do have to keep things a certain way to keep competition fair or what have you. But a lot of times people are smarter than we give them credit for, and because they're people just like us.
Yeah. And again, I think one of the things, and I've tried to stress this, and I know Dale stresses this more than I do, like, I do want more people to speak up, and I do want more people to have their voices heard. And there is a right way to do it, and then there is a wrong way to do it, and there's not much in between. And I don't know how many times to say this. Like, before you put up that nasty post on social media or whatever about anything, take the time and put together an email or, a post that airs your grievances, but it's not full of hate and venom and vigor. And also, like, let the people know that you appreciate everything that they're doing. Because I don't care if it's Little League or what Klifton does at his events or running a show or anything. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money to do all these things. And some people are paid, yes. Some people aren't. But I guarantee you, I don't have to ever been to one of Klifton's events. I can just tell that, like, because I've seen shows put on, I've put on shows, etc. And it's all kind of basically the same thing. Unless you're making like Donald Trump bucks, which nobody is, the amount of anguish you get and the amount of complaints you get and the very few thank yous, a lot of times the monetary value in what you're getting paid for just doesn't cut it.
No. Most of the time you're just hoping to break even. Nobody's walking away from any of these things with super wealth as a result. It's more to bring things together, maybe that lead to that somewhere else, potentially, maybe. But I most of the time it's a passion project because people love to do it, want to do it, and keep seeing the smiles on kids' face and everything else. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
No, and Klifton, you come in and just like you talked about in the beginning, you had no idea what this industry was or is or what we were doing, but you've related it to the events that you've had. From your perspective, just looking at it from basically, you probably hear Ryan and I talk more than anybody when you go back through and edit or the things you do. What is your, I guess, perception? You've watched, you look at more of the numbers than what Ryan and I do, or understand it better and how this has grown. From a outside of our industry perspective, what direction do you feel we need to take this podcast? Do we need to continue to do topics that we feel are relevant, start circling back and maybe hitting some that we did a year ago that some may not have heard about? Or what is your vision? What direction do you think we need to go?
I work more in marketing than anything, and there it's repetition. And I think hitting similar topics from a different angle until it hits with somebody is very important. I would say you don't discuss religion and politics, right? But that's what we do here. So I'm going to bring up religion. I think it's very similar in that there's a lot of concepts that people might have heard their entire life if they're practicing whatever they are. And I think it's very common, especially in religion, where you finally get that aha moment where you might have been hearing about this thing since you were 2 years old, but you're 43, and because life circumstances changed, all of a sudden you understand that concept. And I think that happens in a lot of different ways. And I would say even I'll relate to politics. Since I started working with you guys, I'm much more moderate, maybe left-siding, versus I'm not in the same sphere as you guys are. I'm not listening to the same things, not talking to the same people. But after hearing you guys reiterate things for 2 years, and then some of those things you see happen exactly how you guys said would carry out that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise, I can recognize that as aha, boom, that was something I hadn't thought of, and here's the repercussion, and that's what happened. And I think the same thing is in anything. And in the industry I'm in, there have been times where, again, I've been in this industry around it since I was 9 years old. And it wasn't till 6 or 7 years ago that I was actually in China listening to a presentation by a person I work with every day. And he explained a concept that I should have known about a decade beforehand that I didn't really understand until that moment. For whatever reason, it clicked. And I think that's going to be the same anywhere. It's one of those things where I think it's easy, especially when you're doing podcasts where it's a very chapter book type of thing, where it neatly, it's not like social media where you put it out there and it's like a firework and it's gone. It's very cataloged. It's there. It's on the shelf for somebody to get to. And I think the thought process is that, well, we did that 47 episodes ago. Somebody should have picked that up. And they're not going to. That I think that's part of the thing, is that would we do that? Do we expect ourselves to go back and now listen to 200 hours of us? I think those topics are going to keep coming up. I think you've seen probably even in the Q&A where you get repeated Q&A. I don't think it's a waste of time to hit those subjects again, because you're always, especially if it's a different guest or if it's just you two talking about it or whatever, no matter what you do, you're going to talk about it in a different way from a different perspective, because your perspective has changed since the last time you talked about it.
My perspective never changes, damn it. I'm joking.
Yes, it does. I beg to differ with you there, sir.
Fine.
So, yeah, I would say just keep doing what it naturally comes up, because trying to take, again, it's like anything else. I think you're going to iterate to that next level of wherever that ends up being in a natural progression. I don't think it takes a great strategy or push, and people are listening because they want to hear your perspective on things. That's the whole point. I think Ryan and I agree very much there, where more bias means better opinion, means more accurate outcome as far as like if you're judging or anything else. If you take away all the bias and opinion, you end up with incompetence, in my opinion. So it's one of those things where people are listening to you because you contrast, because you have that bias, because you are willing to talk about these things. And, every day there's somebody new that hasn't heard the Jetsons. It's the same thing here. There's going to be plenty of times where you can repeat topics or hit them from a different angle or whatever else without, I think, feeling that you're being repetitive. And even if it is repetitive, I'm guessing that if it was a half a year or a year ago that you lost at that topic, nobody's going to actually sit there and go, oh, I remember when I listened to this January 6th of 2000, whatever. That's not really how we work as people, I don't think. And maybe people can say I'm wrong and they never want to hear a repeated subject, but I think most people are going to be okay with that and want to hear that.
Well, I love that analyzation.
At least if Dale would do all my topics, we wouldn't have to repeat anything instead of leaving them on a list for 2 years.
You just have to keep sending them to me, but I
want repetition.
I want to go to a lighter side, and Clifton, that explains things. I mean, really, yeah, we need to know a little more about Clifton, the young man that does our introduction. That would be your son, correct?
Oh, that is right. I meant to bring that up earlier. So the cute little voice at the beginning, that's Clifton's kid.
Yeah, he was 10 years old when he recorded that, and then he actually ended up doing a couple other podcast intros for other podcasts that are out there as a result.
I love it.
It was, and I still think it fits. I think it worked out great. I don't know. He really got into it, and he still asks me now and then like, hey, Dad, if anybody wants any podcast intros out there, he's hired. He works for Cheetos, so
I love it.
I'm going to be honest. Dolly Parton was my first choice, but Clifton's kid was my reserve champion choice. But I mean,
That's not bad odds.
And I forgot who I was trying to get on, Clifton. It was
somebody stupid that I didn't know.
Yeah, I remember.
We had a couple of them that I was thinking, and you can get them to do it, but it's a crazy dollar amount. Absolutely crazy. Another interesting fact about Clifton, he literally will bicycle thousands of miles every single week. Would that be accurate?
It used to be more accurate. I think this winter I kind of haven't as much. But yeah, last fall in October, I did an Athens to Savannah ride in Georgia, and that's 300 miles in a weekend. So basically, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles.
I think Ryan and I did the math once, and you've circled the entire planet on miles on a bike.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it's my way to not get angry at the world, so that way I can take it out on the
my exercise from listening to Clifton telling me about his bicycle tournaments and rides. That's how that works. So I appreciate it the most.
You're welcome.
And I have to commend Clifton as well. The rare occasion we bring a guest on, he is very good about making sure to edit however needed to uphold the promises I made to the guest. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Ryan, you get the most angry, don't you?
I don't understand why you make promises to these people. Okay, they all know me.
Come on. But they will not do it unless I tell them that we can edit if you say something that makes them very, very uncomfortable.
I've only talked about one of them being good looking. It's not like he didn't know it beforehand. It's not like I haven't told him his face. So
I agree.
I mean,
he
and it's not like I go through the other ones and like blast them and blow them into the parking lot of their homes, okay? I am a civil person. I do not understand. I mean, most of the times I'm civil. But, I mean, like, yeah, I don't get it. And the one thing, like, I do say this, like, I was the beginning, Dale was like, oh, you're going to have to edit that out of what Ryan said and all this other stuff. Finally, now he just doesn't even care anymore. But, like, I have, like, tried to, like, keep the profanity down. It slips every once in a while when he'll like get some stupid question and answer that gets me stirred up and I go crazy. But but no.
But you're right. I've evolved. Clifton, I think I mentioned this to you. Clifton will send us a version before it goes live.
Dale used to listen to it 5 times before it was released. I've never listened to one.
I don't. And Clifton, please continue to send them just in case I decide to listen to one. But I have that much faith, Clifton, that you've evolved and you know exactly where we need to be, and it's good.
Hope you can take the dog and the maid out in this one.
Right.
Jesus.
It is the maid. Hey, you were right,
maid.
Dale.
So you have a full-time maid, live-in
maid. That is my mother's maid, and they're getting back from California, and the maid had been taking care of the dog because nobody's been here, but Cherie wants her little baby puppy as soon as she gets back, so the maid dropped it off at my house so they can get it when they get here.
You don't have to clean your own house or do your own dishes.
No.
But you do your own laundry.
I do my own laundry because I don't trust anybody to do my own. Look, I am very particular about my clothes, okay? I know how much my clothes cost, so I take very good care of them. No, like if somebody, like, no, it would be bad. It would be bad if
Do
somebody
you have
messed with
like
us.
living quarters for the maid, or does your mom have living quarters for the
No,
maid?
she has her own home.
Okay.
We haven't had a live-in since I got out of high school, I think. Yeah, that was the last time.
And I assume that live-in prior to that or during that, their main job was to keep you.
Well, probably, yeah, that might have been a big part of it, but yeah, good luck with that.
That's great. Well, Clifton, I've enjoyed this. I appreciate it. It's very comfortable, Ryan. Wouldn't you say that's the easiest guest we've ever had on, just because of the comfort level?
I mean, yeah, since we do this every week, it should be pretty comfortable by now. But I am going to. Dale's trying to avoid something, but anyway.
What?
So this woman asked last week why on my little 2 years, whatever. She wanted to know how we met, and Dale does not want to get this out because he was embarrassed. But anyway, so
this counts as a Q&A question, Brian.
That would be great if it did. That means we
I think this counts.
I misread the question. Even I thought it was why we started the podcast.
Well,
no, she wanted to know how you met.
Yeah, how we met. I told you why we started because you had opinions that needed to be heard, but you didn't think anybody listened to them without me. So that's why we started it. No, but it was more to it than that. But so how we met, I knew who Dale Hummel was. I'm assuming Dale Hummel knew who I was. But anyhow, I was judging, and he advertised with my mother in her magazine a lot. And so I was judging the Illinois Beef Expo, and I didn't even see him there. But anyway, he calls Cherie about an ad after the Illinois Beef Expo, and he starts talking to her about the job I did. And I guess he was very positive because after that conversation, she told me about it and everything Dale said. And she has been like Dale Hummel's biggest fan since then. And so basically, how we met is Dale stalked me. He stalked me.
And this was several years ago. Not just prior to.
No, this was like, no, God, I don't think, it's been probably 6 years since I've got to judge in Illinois. I evidently made somebody mad at the Beef Expo. But anyway, next. But, so yeah. So basically, Dale stalked me. And then my mother had him judge the Bonanza for her. And that was the first time that, I mean, again, I had seen Dale. I knew who he was. But to like physically walk up, shake hands, be introduced, all that other stuff, that was the first time. And he had his beautiful wife there with him. And I did not know if that was his wife or his daughter. So I just acted like I knew. And the rest has been history.
And it was Erin who asked the question. And she actually asked it specifically how you came to be such good, friends.
Oh.
LOL. And I think all that is very important because I think in the beginning,
me. That's it.
But in the beginning, I think you were acquaintances that Dale was able to get you somehow to do this. And he saw a vision in doing this. And I think you guys have slowly become better friends over time. I don't think you came into this necessarily being like best of pals. Am I reading that right?
No, I think we were definitely friends because we would text at least a couple of months. I mean, we're much closer now, but we would text at least a couple of months. Like when I saw something stupid that happened, I would text him and vice versa. But I mean, it wasn't like, what's your kangaroo doing? It involved things that we saw going on in the livestock industry.
Sure.
Like people do not believe this. I still have never been to Dale's home. So,
no, Clifton made a visit.
I have never been there. I don't get invited. I don't have the gate code. Like, I guess I'm going to have to, like, parachute in or something. But
now let's tell the truth. You do not like spending time or staying over at other people's homes.
No, but I'd still go see the kangaroo, damn it. No, he has invited me, but I just haven't ever been there. Again, nobody lets me judge in Illinois. That's why.
You judged a sheep show 20 miles away.
And I had another show the day before and the day after.
True.
But
very true.
I will get there. But Dale's never been to my home either. But like we did text about industry things or whatever and stuff or like if I saw one of his goats up on his thing that I thought was really cool, I'd send something to him. So we were friendly. And then, like I said, we had seen each other at a couple shows before Phoenix and talked very great lengths at those shows. And then, but I knew he had an idea because he told me he had an idea, but he didn't tell me what the idea was. And so then, I mean, it's much closer now because, I mean, everybody knows I hate talking on the phone. And, like, the only two people that I will call, like, dial a number is, like, Dale and Callie. So, like, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely much. I know.
Isn't that
Dale.
special?
I know. It is.
The bad thing is I'm with him. I am not. What people would not understand is that Ryan and I, in general, are more socially awkward. I'm going to speak for myself. I know we've talked about this on here. I am the most socially awkward. We talked about Mr. Boxell being that way, and I'm right there. I force myself to go into teaching to try to overcome some of those things, and hopefully it's worked a little bit. But it's still sometimes a challenge for me. Not so much in a big group. I can speak to a large audience, but in a small 2 or 3 people, sometimes it's difficult. It's interesting.
I don't think I'm socially awkward. I do think that I have, like, I can hold court better than I can hold one-on-one conversations. Like, I'm more of an entertainer, I guess. And so, like, talking to, like, 5 to 10 people is whatever. But, like, those one-on-one things or small groups, yeah, I think, especially when I don't know the people. You know, that people that just come up and whatever. And so, like, and then again, like, I say this, part of that is because I haven't always been this popular. And so, like, if a small group of people came towards me, you know, a couple 10 years ago, I would think, oh, shit, here it goes. Like, I'm fixing to fight my way out of this. But, yeah, I agree with you on that completely. But, and I don't know about Mr. Boxell. He says he's socially awkward. I didn't even, again, everybody thinks that I know. Mr. Boxell came to a county fair, and he handed me some stuff and a check for the BTRJLA. And then, poof, he'd be gone. So, yeah, I don't know about Mr. Boxell's social awkwardness, but there you go. Well, I never thought Dale was socially awkward. I've seen him talk to a million people, but I guess he does a good job disguising it.
It takes effort. It's not something that comes natural at all.
Or he's like me and he does fine, but then he has to, like, sleep for 3 days afterward.
Exactly. Well, Clifton, would you like to stay on for question and answer? Maybe you could tune in on a couple of these.
Oh.
I know you've wanted to in the past.
Oh, boy. I guess we'll see.
These are long questions.
Oh, good.
I dove into the email. And Clifton, I think sometimes you check our email and send a few to me. Is that where you get the questions?
The ones that I get are what comes through the website.
Got it. So I went into the email. I don't do that very often, and there's a lot of information in that email. I felt bad that we didn't get back to some of the people. So apologies if you've emailed us and we didn't get back to you. And I tried to cover some of them here the other day, but we didn't get to all of them. Jennifer submits a question. As a judge, how do you like to see the sale order done for county shows? At our county, we used to show for a sale order pre-COVID. All animals would come back into the ring, line up in their classes by placing. The judge would pick the best to fill up the sale order. We have switched to picking animals based on placings only, so all the first place animals make the sale, then the second, then the third, starting with the heaviest class and moving to the lightest class. What we've seen happen is some very small, not great animals make the sale because they were second or third in a small, lightweight class, and the third or fourth place in a heavier class is the better animal, doesn't make the sale. Thoughts? I hope this makes sense.
It makes perfect sense to me. I will tell you that I'm going to give, like, a two-sided answer to this. And so, anyway, as a judge, I think sale order is a nightmare. I'm just going to be super honest with you about it. And maybe it's just me because, like, before they ever walk in there, I can pretty much tell you how it's going to go, and then I'm ready to go, and they're not ready, and so it just seems like it takes, and sale order does take a long time. So when I am judging, it is a nightmare for me. Like, I that's the part of it that I'm just like, oh, please, let's just get it over. I do think, even though it takes long, that is the most fair and accurate way to get all the best animals in the sale. I understand what she's saying about how the first, seconds, whatever, and they go heaviest, lightest. I think that's a crock of bullshit because there's terrible animals that are heavy, and there are terrible animals that are light, and there are terrible animals that are middleweights and whatever. I have done a couple of fairs where they have gone through, we just placed the classes, did Grand Reserve, whatever, and then at the end, they asked me, or even after each breed or whatever, they asked me to rank which class was the toughest, second, and that went into their sale order. I think that is probably a better way of handling it than just going heavy to light. Because, I mean, I was like, well, this was the toughest class, and this one was this was by far the weakest class, and so that gives them a gauge of the competitiveness in the class. And so, I mean, I've only done that like 3 or 4 times, but I thought that was a good way to do it. I'm telling you again, sale order is a nightmare for me as a judge, but if you just want to make sure that the absolute very best ones make the sale, that is it. The only problem that I see when it's not me is sale order is at the end. Normally you're tired, all this, and I don't know if everyone is still using their full comprehension to get that sale order. And so that would be something. But if you've got a competent judge, then you're not going to have that problem. But we all know that at some county fairs, that's not the case. So there you go.
Agreed completely. Clifton, you're okay with that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. This next one comes from a livestock superintendent. And I believe, just to give some background here, and I shortened the answer down quite a bit, or the question, I should say.
I don't think Dale shortens the answers or the questions. I think he just changes them to fit his own agenda, is what I think.
Sometimes I change them. Sometimes. This one was very long. So he wanted to give his background that he's a livestock superintendent at a county fair. I believe it was in California. Everything's terminal, and everything is entered in a carcass competition because it's terminal.
Well, I can tell you already that's dumb.
Okay, so with that said, he pays attention to how they do in the carcass contest, and he pays attention to how they do live. And his question is this. My question is related to the difference I often see between who wins grand champion versus who wins the carcass contest. It is never the same animal, and is quite often an animal that does not even place in its class in the market show. Is the show animal versus the carcass judged on a different merit? Should the two not align, or has the show industry moved away from what is desirable in the market industry?
Okay, Dad, get your little answer out so I can blow.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
They're not going to align because there's not anything similar. I just do not know how.
You cannot say anything similar. There has to be a basis for something.
We have been over this 9 million times, and nobody grasped it. There is no
Clifton would like us to take a different angle on it.
There is no correlation to what happens in the show ring in any of these species and what happens in the commercial-driven industry and the carcass data. And there is no correlation. I don't care what y'all say. And this man just literally proved me right.
So I'm going to make a parallel to cars, and that's because that's what I do. And we have, these show cars that we compete these audio systems in. And some I would call as being purpose show built, and those that are daily driven. And the cars that would ordinarily win in a event or a show that are purposely built for this thing
can't be going down the road every damn day.
Yeah, bingo. They go on a trailer and off a trailer. They're basically useless for the everyday person. So they're also kind of useless for the industry, because even while they promote the fullest of whatever this thing can be, that's really cool, nobody can translate that to their daily life because they can't drive a car that can't be driven. So
I love it.
I guess that's the parallel.
Ryan, you agree with this, correct?
Yeah, and I just want to bring one thing up, okay? So I have judged a county fair before, and I'm not going to say which county or anything like that. And Hog Show, for instance. And I would say 50% of the pigs at that show were pigs that were raised just to go into the meat supply. Do you understand what I'm saying, Dale?
Yes.
Okay, so there's this farm that sponsors all these kids a pig, and they let them take it to the show and raise it and all that, so they get the experience, but they are just packing plant pigs. Do you understand what I'm going at here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, the comparison can't be made any more obvious. Of course, I'm glad those kids had that experience and whatever, and all that, but they didn't have a Chinaman's chance in hell of winning anything.
They did not. Not in your live show.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was not, I mean, not going to happen. And so those animals are, obviously, their carcasses are going directly in the meat supply, whatever, that's what that deal does. And so they're fine for that, but they're not even, I mean, it is like night and day difference on show animals. And so I think the fact that there is not a correlation, and you can study, I think the one thing that Texas majors do, they kill the first and seconds and they have a carcass contest. And there's a winner out of those. Okay, well, these were all the first and seconds. It's not like they were all up at the top. So even though that carcass data is there, it's still skewed, in my opinion. But
hey, be nice to that.
No, I'm saying, like, it's the top of the top. You know what I'm saying? There is no correlation to the real world in it. And so, yeah, I could talk about this topic. This needs to be a topic again. But anyway.
I think it does. And I'll save a lot of my comments for that. The only thing that I'm going to come back with that at some point, Ryan, there was a correlation, and there still needs to be some
And I agree
basis.
at some point there was. We have blown way past that now. We're not there. We're not there. We're not there.
I would.
I just need you to see that and understand that. I get it. I know there was. And I think there was in every species. We are not there now.
Now, Dr. Skaggs.
Now, maybe you want to go back there. Well, I think your thing is that maybe it should go a little more that way, or there should be some things integrated, whatever.
It shouldn't be a strict carcass contest, no, but I think we should apply the principle that we should be in a certain window for loin, say for pigs, for loin eye size and back fat. We should be within a certain window. And most of the times I think we probably are.
Okay.
So we're already there.
You're talking about this window though, right? You're talking about this window.
Yes.
You do know that it's too big for the box too, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think we in the hog industry right now, I'm going to say those loin eyes are probably, we've gone too far. I think we should emphasize more.
So now you're going to tell them to make their pigs less muscular.
No, I think we should. No, I think what you should do is not focus, not select as hard for muscle, but rather more on skeletal build and soundness and balance and look.
I think that would be a great idea. They're not going to do it.
No, but I think the reason we are crippled up like we are is because there has been such a push for muscle, and we've gone past where we need to be. So I'd rather make good animals that have enough muscle.
I would say that in terms of meeting the specs for what you need in those areas of meat characteristics on a carcass, that I would say at least 85% of the animals that walk into a ring in a mega show are going to meet those.
I think they meet their minimums, but the
minimums,
upside,
yes. The other side, yeah, but I'm saying the minimums.
I think we go too far sometimes, and I think the cattle rings maybe as close as it's ever been to within the industry. If we try to say what grid we're going to hit, well, the grocery store is a yield grade 2 low choice. We're probably not far off that in the steer show, as far as my perception of where it is. So sometimes we do end up about right there. That the goats and the sheep, we're so far beyond the muscle part, and lambs in the last few years have become so obesely fat and accepted that it's maybe a little skewed. We'll have a whole topic on it.
Lovely. My head will blow off. It's great.
It'll be great. We'll have to bring a guest.
I'm going to have some. Does anybody on this listen to this podcast have Xanax? You're going to need to send me some for that.
I would like you to invite Dr. Skaggs on for that one if you would. Can you do that for me?
I'll try.
I need some help on that one.
No, y'all will just gang up and bash me. It will be terrible.
It might work out. I have been in the show pig industry for the majority of my life. It seems the new trend on the West Coast is shows offering non-papered purebred classes, otherwise known as classification classes. It is extremely difficult when we spend a great deal of time and money finding papered purebred gilts only to show against cross gilts in a purebred show. The shows that are doing this say the animal must classify as a purebred they identify as. Example, hamp gilts must have a belt all the way around. No breaks in the belt, any white on nose can't go over the edges, and white on the back legs can't go above the hock. Through the majority of the gilts in the class don't meet the breed classifications. I think he's saying they don't implement them sometimes. Mm-hmm. We signed up for that show. We knew what we were getting into ourselves. we as showmen and breeders do not continue. What can we do so this trend does not continue? Why offer pure classes and not ask for papers? I have no issue showing cross gilts as we show cross gilts, but keep them in the cross show. What are your thoughts? That was a long one. And we have kind of covered this a little bit.
Well, we have a little bit, but like I think the thing I'm going to go back and say that the papers are only as legitimate as who's supplying them, but that's a whole other topic that we've done that. But anyway, I think the reason that this is coming to be like it is because they're obviously the non-papered animals are probably cheaper. I think that's one thing. Number two, it is probably I don't understand why people think it is easier to classify than it is to check registration papers. I think the classification would probably take longer if they're actually doing a real classification than checking papers. I completely understand this man's point on if you're going to offer purebred classes, they need to be purebred. I think the big thing is they're probably getting more numbers in doing it this way because, I mean, I can tell you all the hog shows I judge, I'd say that 40% of the crossbreds could maybe get by as a hamp sometimes in a classification system. And so I think they're probably getting their numbers increased. How to fix it, I don't know. You're going to have to rally the troops and whatever. But like for Texas, we don't, at our jackpot shows and stuff, we do not have breeding gilts at all. I mean, we really don't, other than cattle, we don't have much breeding at jackpot anything here. Does, ewes, whatever. It's all kind of market. And so I don't know how to fix it. I understand your point and I get it. Like if you're going to show purebreds, then let them make them purebred. But I think the reason that they're doing it is they're getting more numbers because of various and sundry reasons. Because that's the main reason a lot of shows change things is to get more exhibitors to get more entry fees.
Well answered. I think that's exactly on. I don't know that it's going to change. I'm not trying to avoid him asking because I know that was what he wanted is how to get it changed. I don't know how to change it. I would like to propose, and Ryan, you and I have talked about this. We are going to do an episode that focuses specifically. We've brought it up several times, but specifically on exhibitor-friendly shows and the exhibitors having more input. But I think we need to do an entire podcast about that, and I'm convinced that those shows that are more exhibitor-friendly, once one or two of the bigger shows start to do this, it almost forces the hand that the others do because those exhibitors are going to vote by which shows they go to, and those that they have more input in and maybe can help in whatever it is, whether it's any aspect of it. If they're included into that, they're going to be more likely to go to those shows. So I'm excited about doing that one. But excellent answer on that one. Klifton, thank you so much for all you do. You do more than what I'm sure the world realizes in terms of keeping Ryan and I going down the right path.
I promise y'all get a lot less cuss words out of me and a lot less, Ryan, you can't say that out of Dale because of Klifton. Agreed. But thank you, and until next week, be safe. Y'all come back now, you hear?
Taglines.
Oh, shit.